The Kunduz hospital attack, a documented tragedy. On the night of October 3, 2015, in the northern Afghan city of Kunduz, a U.S. Air Force AC-130 gunship appeared in the sky. At the time, the city had been experiencing heavy fighting for several days. However, one building in the city center was considered a protected site under the laws of war. That building was a trauma hospital operated by Doctors Without Borders. At approximately 2:08 a.m. local time, the aircraft began targeting the hospital. Over the next 30 minutes, it circled above the complex and fired repeatedly at the buildings using precise coordinates. According to official reports, a total of 211 shells were fired during the attack. This was not random fire. The AC-130 gunship is equipped with infrared cameras, laser targeting systems, and real-time surveillance technology. Each strike was deliberately executed. Inside the hospital, escape was impossible. Patients who could not move burned alive in their beds. Doctors were wounded or killed by shrapnel while operating. People who attempted to flee the burning buildings were shot from the air. By the time the attack ended, at least 42 people had been killed. Among the dead were 14 medical staff members, along with numerous patients. What makes the attack even more severe is the fact that the hospital had provided its exact GPS coordinates to the U.S. military several days earlier. This is a standard international practice intended to prevent precisely this kind of incident. Even while the bombs were falling, hospital leadership repeatedly contacted U.S. and Afghan military command centers, demanding that the attack be stopped. The strikes continued regardless. In the aftermath, official U.S. explanations changed multiple times. Initially, the strike was described as an act of self-defense. Later, officials claimed it had been requested by the Afghan army. Eventually, the U.S. commander admitted that the decision had been made entirely by American forces, but characterized it as a tragic mistake caused by human error and equipment failure. Some officials alleged that Taliban fighters had been using the hospital as cover. This claim was never substantiated. Independent observers and hospital administrators categorically denied it, stating that no weapons were present and that the compound was occupied solely by medical staff and patients. Under international law, hospitals remain protected objects even during armed conflict. Intentionally or negligently targeting them constitutes a war crime. Despite this, no one was held criminally accountable. President Obama issued an apology. 16 military personnel received administrative discipline. The Pentagon closed the case, classifying the incident as an accident. The United Nations and independent organizations called for an international investigation, arguing that a military cannot impartially investigate its own actions. That investigation never took place. The Kunduz hospital was destroyed. Accountability was not. Mahmudiyah. The day humanity faded. The deadliest point of the Iraq War. The Triangle of Death. March 12, 2006. In the town of Mahmudiyah near Baghdad, the air was thick with gunpowder and hatred. Stationed here were soldiers from the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division. Among them was 21-year-old Stephen Dale Green. He had already lost his humanity. His psyche was poisoned by the worst vices of war. In an interview with journalists, he openly confessed, "Killing Iraqis is like killing flies. It doesn't mean anything to me." Just a few hundred meters from the checkpoint stood the home of an ordinary farmer, Qasim Hamza. For weeks, Stephen Green and his accomplices used binoculars to stalk this household, specifically targeting 14-year-old Abir Qasim. The family sensed the danger. Her mother kept her inside, dressing her in oversized clothes and never leaving her side. They were planning to flee, but on March 12th, death arrived at their door first. That day, 5 soldiers, fueled by alcohol, began their bloody hunt. They removed their military uniforms, changed into civilian clothes, and stormed the Al-Janabi home armed with rifles. They herded the father, the mother, and 6-year-old Hadil into one room. Without a moment's hesitation, Stephen Green executed the parents and the child. The cries of the children were silenced by the roar of gunfire. Then it was Abir's turn. One of the most heinous and depraved crimes in human history was committed. After the soldiers brutalized the 14-year-old girl, they murdered her. To erase all evidence, they poured lighter fluid on her body and set the house on fire. The charred remains of Abir were later found near her school bag. After returning to the base, these monsters acted as if nothing had happened. They calmly ate chicken wings and played video games. The next day, they filed reports blaming the massacre on Sunni insurgents. The truth only emerged months later thanks to the testimony of Justin Watt, a fellow soldier who could no longer live with the secret. Despite death threats from his comrades, Watt exposed the crime that would shock the world. Stephen Green was sentenced to life in prison. In 2014, he committed suicide in his cell. His accomplices, Barker, Cortez, and Spielman, received long prison sentences. The Mahmudiyah massacre was not just an episode of war. It is a chilling reminder of how war can transform a human being into a savage beast. All that remains of Abir Qasim and her family are the cold court documents that horrified the world.